Hello and welcome to the CounselEAR Complete OMS training series. This video will focus on the areas of CounselEAR that are most frequently utilized by back office staff. Specifically, we'll be looking at the process for creating and submitting claims, as well as how to add payments into CounselEAR once those claims have been adjudicated. Then we'll look at the business report generators and focus specifically on some of the summary reports. So we'll begin here within a patient profile. This is a patient that already has insurance in place and has had a visit, and an invoice was created for that visit. So there is the visit, and there is the invoice we've created relative to that visit. As you can see here, there is $155 that's currently due from insurance. If we hover, we can see the details that went along with that. So we can see a private payment that was in place there, any changes over time. But in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to say that we want to go ahead and submit the claim related to this invoice. So I'm going to go ahead here and click on the invoice. Now, of course, this may be related to a claim related to regarding services, so audiological evaluation, for example, tinnitus evaluation. It may be related to devices, maybe a fitting for hearing instruments. So there's a wide range of purposes for this, but this is kind of a core workflow that we'll show you now. If you want, of course, you can review what's currently in place by clicking on line items. You can see the items that are there at the very bottom. You can view any payments that have been made already. Once again, there's a private payment for those batteries. And the last step here, of course, is on the Claims tab. This is where you simply click on Start New Claim. CounselEAR will then take information throughout the patient profile and the patient visit and help you start to build your claim. Now, really the focus here in CounselEAR is that this is a review process. You're not starting from scratch. You don't necessarily have to interact with the 1500, the CMS, the HIG 1500, unless you really want to, and I'll show you that at the very end. But this process here is really just reviewing. So is the patient contact information in place? Yes, it is. This is typically captured when the patient first calls in. The insurance information, yes, this is captured when the patient first called in or when they arrived at the office. Okay. Typically, when you get to this point, you're going to see this information is already completed. Okay, so at this point, we're really just reviewing. When we get the diagnosis tab, then we're looking at information that came over specifically from the visit. So in this case, it has the rendering provider's information. No referring physician was selected on the visit. Had one been selected, then it would have automatically filled. You, of course, can add one on the fly as well. Okay. Now, it's important to note that when you go to finalize this claim, as we will in just a moment here, CounselEAR will perform a scrub of the claim looking for any common errors or omissions. Now, in the example I provided here, this is a Blue Cross Blue Shield payer. If this was a Medicare payer, prior to being able to finalize the claim, CounselEAR would look at this one specifically and say, hey, you don't have a referring physician. So it would give you a warning right away to let you know this is a traditional Medicare claim, you need a referring physician. Okay, so once again, if one was not added, you could add one on the fly. Okay, and it'll fill in that physician's information. Okay. Of course, the IC10 codes can be changed at this point if you want to. If you see one that maybe it was a mistake from the provider, or you want to add something new, you certainly can as well on the fly. So you can start to just type in the code and see the available ones as well. Okay. So once again, the idea here is to primarily be a review process. However, you do have the ability to make changes on the fly if needed. When we get to the billing information, we can see here once again this all auto-fills, both the billing entity and the service location facility. We can scroll down to the bottom here, and we can see there's our 92557. There's the 92567 for the temps. And the third option here is related to MIPS. So if you happen to submit MIPS measures, MIPS codes, this is where CounselEAR will fill that information in automatically. So this was a decision the provider made back on the visit screen that now is populated in the claim. So the point being is, if you do submit MIPS as a back office staff, as a coding reimbursement expert, you do not have to do anything. CounselEAR will take the information and put it in the claim on the right way automatically for you. So for example, here you can see there's automatically a 1 cent charge added because that's what Medicare prefers. However, CounselEAR knows that this is a fake 1 cent. So it doesn't show up in your AR. You don't have to go later on and clean it up. It's just purely for the point of getting that number on the claim. It won't show up throughout the rest of the system. Okay, so now we have that in place. One thing I should mention towards the top here is you do have the ability to toggle back and forth very quickly depending on how this claim specifically should be billed. So for example, if in this case is Blue Cross Blue Shield, maybe Blue Cross Blue Shield wants us to bill as a group. However, UHC wants us to bill as an individual, in which case you can flip back and forth. And Counselor will fill that data in for you straight away. You do not have to manually re-enter that information. You just simply make the decision as to how you wish to bill. Okay, now we'll move ahead here to the optional tab. As it specifically states, this is optional. There are some fields available here regarding like workers' compensation and potentially some resubmission areas as well. These are areas that if they come up for you, we're happy to talk them through with you to make sure, if there's any questions at all. For example, here with the prior authorization number, if a prior auth number was listed within the patient's insurance policy area, then it would pre-fill straight away. Okay, so once again, the idea here is you can move through this very promptly, get to the final stage here of complete, and then you have an option. Within your practice, you may be working with one of the two clearinghouses that CounselEAR integrates with, ClaimMD or Apex. If so, you simply choose the first option. If you are working with a different clearinghouse and you're saying, nope, we prefer to create the claim, save it, and then we're going to submit that directly to the clearinghouse, that's obviously perfectly fine as well, in which case you would just leave it here as none selected. Okay, so either way, whatever fits your specific scenario, you choose either option and then click Save. Either way, CounselEAR will perform a scrub of the claim, as I mentioned. Now, in this case, it passed the scrub. Had it failed, we would have seen where the error was. Maybe there's a zip code missing for the patient or the referring physician or some required field that CounselEAR can catch right now. Of course, the big advantage of all this is it is amazingly quicker to catch these kinds of errors now and to fix them now than after they have gone out to the clearinghouse and they get hung up there, or they get onto the payer and you have a rejection. That can soak up an amazing amount of time. Our goal here, of course, is to provide the scrub right away, catch those errors or omissions. If they're there, correct them immediately, and then proceed forward. Now, in this case, as I mentioned, it passed the scrub. The claim has now been sent out to ClaimMD or to Apex, and we can see the claim down below. We can see the amount. Once again, that 01 is just for the claim purpose only. It doesn't hit your AR. We also can see there are two versions of the claim. There's the 1500. You can click on it. It is an editable editable PDF, I'm sorry. So it'll pre-fill significant sections of the 1500, but you can put in more. By the way, an address can be stored within the insurance profile, inside the payer profile itself. So if you do have payers where they say, nope, you need to send us 1500, their address can be stored within that payer profile, so you don't have to enter it each time. There we go. So within that PDF, you have the ability to make any changes, of course, and print that off. Now the PDF itself has a template built in, so you simply would click print. You would not need the pre-printed forms and then to line up your printer. You would need to print in color to get the red, but you can print on plain paper. Okay. Now the second file format is the 837p. This is a file that you may be very familiar with, or maybe the first time you're hearing it. It is the file format that payers want. It's what clearinghouses want. It is the modern version of the claim. It greatly reduces the issues experienced with the 1500 regarding the limited number of lines. In the 1500 course, you can only have 6 lines of service, and that's because they only had room for 6 lines. Right? With the 837, just to show you what this looks like, it's computer garbage, right? It's something that a computer system can absorb this, understands it, and can pull it into their system. So and the 837 does not have any limits, right? You could have 50 lines of service. You could have 100. You could have 1,000. It doesn't matter. So the beautiful thing about the 837 is that it goes into clearinghouses and payers in the format in which they prefer, which reduces the errors and reduces the time at which the claim takes for the claim to get reviewed and completed. Okay, so CounselEAR automatically submits the 837p to ClaimMD as well as Apex. If you're working with an outside system, we would recommend that whenever possible, you download the 837p and that's the claim that you load to the clearinghouse. Okay, so that's the process for creating and submitting an insurance claim. Let's look at the process for when we receive the response back, right? We get our ERA, we know what the adjustments are, what the payment is, and we want to go through that process. Okay, so let's just fast forward here and say we've received the check and we've received all the documentation. You would pop into, and this is the example where we're going to be receiving this from Blue Cross Blue Shield, and there are 6 patients on that form, okay? And we want to get all those processed very quickly. So what you do, you go to the first patient on the list, and you would choose here on, click the option for add payment, okay? What's initially going to do is we'll set kind of our standards here. So we're going to say, yes, this is Blue Cross Blue Shield. Now, counselor knew that because this is the patient's insurance they had on file. We then would say, okay, what's the payment method? So this, they're going to be paying us by check. Let's just put in a fake number here. You can put in notes if you want. You can decide whether you want to apply adjustments. Now, most commonly when we're talking about insurance, you're going to be applying adjustments. You don't have to, but very typically you just leave this as checked. And then you go ahead and click Next. It shows you all the available invoices. We can see one of those has an outstanding balance for insurance due for this patient. So we're going to say the insurance paid us $110, okay, leaving $45 yet to be paid. Okay, so we'll go ahead and make that payment. Obviously, if you want to take multiple payments or payments across multiple invoices, you certainly could do that as well. But in this case, we're going to focus on an individual data service. Now, counselor has noted that payment, and now it's moved us immediately into the adjustments. So we're going to say this is a insurance contractual write-off is what the adjustment is. Okay, we can put additional notes. We also can select whether the remaining bit will be insurance responsibility. So transfer any remaining, deduct any adjustment from the insurance responsibility, which very typically you'll leave this checked as well. You also have the ability to leave this option checked to say, hey, any remaining amount, make it the patient responsibility. So the payer has paid their portion, any adjustments are taken into account, and the remaining $17.14 is going on to the patient, right? Or you could say, no, in fact, don't do that because we're waiting on a secondary. So in that case, you want it to stay as insurance due. So that may depend specifically, well, would depend likely if this patient has a secondary or not. In this case, I'm going to leave it as it is, and we'll click Next. Now, within the invoice we selected, it shows the available items. Now, the batteries, you can see there's no insurance responsibility, so we're not messing around with that one. What we need to do is take the adjustments out. So what we had said is that there was a essentially $45 adjustment. So I'm going to apply a $40 adjustment to the audio and a $15 adjustment here. Okay, so once I go ahead and click Save, that's going to log those adjustments. With these simple steps, we have now completed the process of registering the payment from the payer and including the adjustments on this invoice. And what counselor has now done is taken us immediately on to a window where we can add the next patient. So what we do is we move down the list. Okay, Alma's next. And you go through the same process. Okay, except for now it's auto-filled, right? It's assuming it's the same check. Now you could change this, of course, but the assumption once again is that if it's coming from Blue Cross Blue Shield, once again it's likely an aggregated check. And then you can move through the process as well. So same idea here. Let's just take those same steps. Let's assume they paid us in the same way. Of course, it could be different, certainly. Insurance contractual, that all looks good. Let's move through. So as you can see here, the idea is that you can greatly improve the efficiency of this process because this is all happening straight away, right? So, whoops, I need a $15 adjustment there. There we go. And now as we save this, we've now completed the whole process for Alma, even though we were not working in Alma's profile. Okay, once I close this down, we can see that now, and I see I had done my math poorly on this, so you can see I made a mistake. That's something we certainly can fix. Let's go back into the patient profile. Here's just a great example, is if you happen to make an error, no big deal. You can pop back in and you can adjust it, right? So I had overestimated on that. So you could simply jump in here and you could make that change. So if we want to do something where we said, oh, that actually should have been a $10 adjustment, you could certainly do that. You can make that change. Now the adjustments and the payments, of course, will be relative to the date of when they occurred, right? So if the services were on the 18th, but the response back from insurance didn't come in for a month, that's perfectly fine. And as you notice as part of that process, CounselEAR is QuickBooks compatible, so you're not going to be adjusting your books for previous months. The adjustments are added on the date at which you want them to be added. So you can change the date if you want, or use today's date, whatever you preferred, but that just keeps things safe so we're not adjusting backwards. We're not adjusting previous month's books. Okay? Once again, you could pop in and make any changes, and I still had that off. I just wanted to show you can make that change really quickly. But the idea is that, of course, you can go through the process and get those invoices in place and adjustments and payments in place really, really quickly. Okay, now moving on to the business report generators. We'll click on business in the top menu bar. CounselEAR has report generators broken down across a wide variety of criteria. Now, we were just talking a lot about claims, so you certainly may want to look in the claims report generator or the invoice report generator. And basically what CounselEAR is going to say is, hey, let's give you tons of data about that specific area and enable you to sort and filter and find specific information. You can create your own report. So for example, you could create your own time frame here that you're looking for, age of the claim, the status. Maybe you're looking for specific payers. I want to see what's happened for all those Blue Cross Blue Shield over a certain time frame. You can limit this down. So you're saying, hey, I just want to see certain columns. Maybe I don't want to see every single column because there's a lot in play here. And then you can schedule. So say, hey, on the once a week or once a day or once a month, I want a specific report to be run. And then you can title that report however you want. CounselEAR will save that report for you, or run the report and save it for you, and then you'll have it available when you log into CounselEAR under your report pickup. So for example, if you want it to be once a week, you set it up and it'll arrive on Sunday, right? And then on Monday morning you log in and you can see that spreadsheet available immediately. So there's the ability to have that routine report creation and review built right into the system. Okay. Now we talk more about these report generators. There's also a great deal of summary type reports. So we can see our AR aging, right? Which you can break this down, of course, by private pay, or you can break it down by insurance payers. You can break it down by time range. So for example, if I wanted to see all private pay, maybe I'll narrow my time frame a little bit. I can run this, for all clinics or individual clinics, and now I can see my full AR, right? We can then take action from there. We could download this in a spreadsheet, right? Download the statements. We could send emails to these patients to start the process for collecting on this AR, but you can see it all in one place. We also have the ability to show, for example, hearing aid sales summaries or hearing aid sales detail or total sales summaries. One particular summary I want to point out that I think is particularly beneficial is the appointment life cycle summary. The idea behind the life cycle summary is to enable you to know what you don't know. This is one of the big challenges I saw personally in private practice, is the ability to figure out where you may have missed things, right? Did a provider forget to create a super bill? Was a super bill created but not turned into an invoice? Was an invoice created but it was claimable but we never submitted the claim, right? This enables you to really kind of set your framework for whatever it is specifically you want to look for, right? So I gave some examples there. What about any visits where a super bill wasn't created, but it was a billable visit? A super bill should have been created. What about, invoices that are claimable, but we never created a claim, right? So you can set your time frame, you can set your clinics, you can set even the appointment type if you want, certain providers, and then you could say, you know what, show me what I don't know. Okay. Now, these may be instances of misses, right? Where, yeah, we had a claim that was invoice that was claimable, and we missed it. We didn't submit it. Or you could use it proactively. You could say, okay, for an office staff, I want you to take it to this point. I want you to have the invoice created. So import the super bill, create the invoice, take any private pay payments, and then stop there. And then as a back office manager, as a billing, coding, reimbursement expert, as the clinic owner, whatever the case may be, I will take it from there. In which case, there are no spreadsheets to share around. There's no leave the chart on my desk. There's no post-it notes. There's no verbal, hey, I could go ahead and build that claim. None of that. You simply go into this tool and it shows you specifically what needs to be done. Now in this case, there are 5 instances. We can see all of the details related to the appointment. As we go towards the right, we can start to see more information, right? So we can start to see what happened with the visit itself. Was it billable? Was there a super bill created? if there was an invoice created. Now in this case, we can see because we set this drop-down criteria, in all of these instances, a claim was required, but no one was not created. So once again, this may be a matter of catching misses or just having a very efficient protocol within your whole staff that individuals do their specific amount of work, right? If you have someone who comes in Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, or you do that to work on claims, you go right here and you see the claims that need to be submitted. Okay, so the point is, between all of these different summaries, our goal is you can see from a very high level, zoom into detail, catch what may be missed, see what you need to see, all very efficiently. So, of course, if you have any questions about any of these areas or anything we can assist you with, please give us a call, email us, live chat us. There are also video tutorials which break down individual components of this system and a lot of the areas that we covered today. So we're always happy to help. There's never a charge for support with CounselEAR, so please let us know if we can assist in any way. And thank you very much for joining us for the CounselEAR Complete OMS training series for back office staff.